Hi, this is Daniel. I serve as a spokesperson for Nehemiah Reset. Today I want to continue the talk on indoctrination in our educational classrooms. Across the United States, parents are increasingly alarmed by what they perceive as ideological indoctrination replacing education in our public school systems. While schools should be places of academic learning and critical thinking, many have become battlegrounds where progressive ideologies are being promoted at the expense of fundamental educational principles. This video is the third in a multi-part video on indoctrination in the classroom. We continue the discussion on what has been some of the financial impact on communities. Ideological indoctrination has tangible economic consequences for communities, starting with property values. School quality significantly impacts property values. Districts with declining academic standards often see stagnant or falling property values. Communities perceived as having woke schools may experience reduced demand for housing. School choice options can affect neighborhood stability and investment patterns. It also can impact business development. Companies consider educational quality when deciding where to locate. Areas with poor academic outcomes may struggle to attract businesses. Employers increasingly express concerns about graduates' readiness for the workforce. Community reputation affects tourism and economic development. Indoctrination programs also come with burdens to taxpayers. Ideological programs often come with significant costs. Expensive consultants and training programs. Lawsuits and legal settlements. Lost productivity from students who graduate without essential skills. What is the long-term solution to this problem? The ultimate solution to ideological indoctrination is embracing educational pluralism, a system that recognizes that different families have different values and priorities. One solution to this is to have funding follow the student. Rather than funding institutions, education funding should follow students to their chosen educational setting. Public charter schools with diverse educational philosophies. Private schools through tax credit scholarships or vouchers. Homeschooling options with appropriate support and resources. A second solution is regulatory simplification. Reduce bureaucratic barriers that limit educational innovation. Streamlined approval processes for new schools. Reduced reporting requirements that divert resources from instruction. Flexibility in credentialing and staffing models. Another potential solution is to have quality assurance through transparency. Rather than top-down regulation, ensure quality through standardized testing that measures academic achievement rather than ideological conformity. Public reporting of objective performance metrics. Parent choice based on transparent information about school performance and approach. What is the call to action for indoctrination in our schools? The battle against indoctrination in our schools is ultimately a battle for the future of our nation. It requires 1. Immediate engagement. Parents must get involved now. Attend meetings, review curriculum, ask questions, and speak up. 2. Sustained commitment. This is not a short-term fight, but a long-term movement to reclaim education from ideological extremists. 3. Coalition building. Work with others who share your concerns, even if you disagree on other issues. 4. Political participation. Support candidates who prioritize academic excellence and parental rights. Consider running for office yourself. 5. Financial support. Fund organizations and legal efforts fighting for educational freedom. 6. Prayer and moral reflection. Recognize that this is fundamentally a moral battle that requires spiritual grounding and ethical clarity. The future of our children and our nation hang in the balance. The time for passive concern is past. The time for courageous action is now. What is the psychological warfare against parents? A crucial, often overlooked aspect of the indoctrination campaign is the systematic psychological pressure applied to parents who dare to question the new educational orthodoxy. School districts, activist groups, and even government agencies have developed sophisticated tactics to marginalize, intimidate, and silence parental opposition. Parents who raise concerns are frequently subjected to ad hominem attacks, designed to discredit them rather than address their substantive arguments. Extremist designations. The National School Board Association's infamous letter requested that the FBI investigate parents as potential domestic terrorists, equating passionate school board testimony with insurrection. Psychological framing. Dissenting parents are often labeled as exhibiting white fragility, heteronormative bias, or other psychological conditions that pathologize normal parental concern. Hate group accusations. Organizations like the Southern Poverty Law Center have labeled mainstream parental rights organizations as hate groups for opposing critical race theory or gender ideology in schools. What are some of the strategic intimidation tactics? Beyond mere labeling, schools and their allies employ specific intimidation tactics. FOIA retaliation. In multiple documented cases, parents who file Freedom of Information Act requests have been subjected to counter-investigations by school districts. Child Protective Services threats. Some parents have reported being threatened with CPS reports for refusing to affirm their child's gender transition or for objecting to sexually explicit curriculum. Employment pressure. In smaller communities, parents who speak out sometimes face professional consequences as school officials contact their employers. Perhaps most insidiously, activists deliberately attempt to divide communities. Student pitting. Some schools encourage students to confront or shun peers whose parents hold problematic views. Community segmentation. Activists organize affinity groups that separate parents along racial or identity lines, preventing unified opposition. Astroturfing. School districts often create fake parent organizations or use PTA leadership to create the appearance of widespread support for controversial policies. The ideological transformation of American education is not happening in isolation. It's part of a coordinated global movement with shared strategies, funding sources, and theoretical frameworks. What has been UNESCO's influence? The United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, has been instrumental in promoting progressive education worldwide. Global citizenship education. UNESCO's framework explicitly aims to create students who will challenge unjust systems and promote social justice globally. Comprehensive sexuality education. UNESCO's technical guidelines on sexuality education have been adopted in modified form by many U.S. districts, introducing concepts of sexual pleasure and gender fluidity to young children. Sustainable Development Goals. American schools increasingly incorporate UN sustainability goals that frame capitalism and Western consumption patterns as inherently destructive. What are some of the international funding networks? A web of international foundations and nonprofits funds and coordinates educational transformation. Open Society Foundations. George Soros' network has poured hundreds of millions into transforming education curricula worldwide. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. While focused on education reform, their grants often require adoption of specific pedagogical approaches aligned with progressive ideology. Rockefeller Brothers Fund. This foundation has funded numerous educational initiatives focused on climate change, activism, and social justice. Cross-national curriculum development. Progressive curriculum materials are often developed internationally and adapted for local use. International Baccalaureate. The IB program, while academically rigorous, incorporates explicitly progressive perspectives on history, economics, and social issues. Climate education materials. Organizations like the Climate Literacy and Energy Awareness Network, CLEAN, develop climate education materials used globally that often present apocalyptic scenarios without scientific balance. Global history frameworks. New history curricula increasingly frame world events through post-colonial and anti-Western lenses developed by international academic networks. The corporate connection. Business influence on indoctrination. While often overlooked, corporate America plays a significant role in promoting ideological education. ESG initiatives in education. Environmental, social, and governance. ESG investing has created powerful incentives for corporate involvement in education. Workforce development. Companies like Google, Microsoft and Amazon fund educational programs that align with their diversity, equity, and inclusion priorities. Curriculum partnerships. Corporations develop and provide curriculum materials that promote their preferred social values while building brand loyalty. School board influence. Corporate executives often serve on school boards or advisory committees, bringing their corporate diversity frameworks to educational settings. Consulting industry proliferation. A lucrative industry has emerged around diversity, equity, and inclusion consulting for schools. Lucrative contracts. DEI consultants can charge districts hundreds of thousands of dollars for training programs and curriculum development. White fragility economy. Books like Robin DiAngelo's White Fragility have spawned an entire industry of workshops, follow-up materials, and certification programs. Sustainability consulting. Firms specializing in sustainability education help schools develop programs that often promote specific political solutions to environmental challenges. Major technology companies shape education through their platforms and content moderation. Learning management systems. Companies like Google and Microsoft control the digital infrastructure of schools, allowing them to influence how information is presented and accessed. Content curation. Educational platforms increasingly curate content based on progressive principles, filtering out alternative perspectives. Data collection. Educational technology companies collect vast amounts of student data, often with inadequate privacy protections and sometimes used for behavioral profiling. The transformation of public education includes a deliberate effort to replace traditional religious frameworks with secular progressive ideology. It starts with a moral framework replacement. Progressive education seeks to provide a comprehensive moral framework that replaces religion. Values clarification. Students are taught to construct their own moral values rather than receiving them from family or religious traditions. Secular ethics. Programs like ethical education provide comprehensive moral instruction that explicitly excludes religious perspectives. Mindfulness programs. While seemingly neutral, these programs often incorporate Buddhist concepts without acknowledging their religious origins. Many progressive curricula exhibit overt hostility to traditional religious perspectives. Christianity portrayal. Christianity is often presented primarily as a force of oppression in history classes, while its contributions to Western civilization are minimized. Islam presentation. In contrast, Islam is frequently presented with an uncritical perspective that omits discussions of slavery, gender inequality, or violence in its history. LGBTQ ideology versus religion. Schools increasingly teach that religious objections to homosexuality or gender transitions are inherently discriminatory. One of the methods used is the creation of secular rituals. Schools increasingly incorporate secular rituals that mirror religious practices. Climate confession. Students are encouraged to confess their carbon sins and perform acts of environmental penance. Social justice ceremonies. Ritualized acknowledgments of privilege and oppression replace traditional religious ceremonies of moral reflection. Identity affirmation. Public declarations of gender identity or sexual orientation serve as secular rites of passage in school settings. Understanding the current educational landscape requires examining its historical development. The current ideological transformation has deep historical roots. John Dewey's influence. The early 20th century progressive education movement emphasized schools as instruments of social change rather than academic learning. Frankfurt School, critical theory, developed at this German institution, provided the theoretical framework for viewing society through lenses of power and oppression. 1960s counterculture. The New Left's influence on education emphasized student-led learning, anti-authoritarianism, and political activism. Several policy developments accelerated ideological indoctrination. Department of Education creation. 1979 federal involvement in education increased dramatically, creating new avenues for ideological influence. A Nation at Risk. 1983, while ostensibly about academic decline, this report paved the way for increased federal control over curriculum. Goals 2000. 1994, this legislation established federal education goals that included opportunity to learn standards that opened the door for ideological content requirements. Another cause for the increase was because of the Obama administration acceleration. The period from 2009 to 2017 saw a dramatic increase in federal promotion of progressive education. Common Core, while ostensibly about academic standards, the associated curriculum materials often incorporated progressive perspectives. Race to the Top. This competitive grant program incentivized states to adopt progressive education policies. Dear Colleague Letters. The Department of Education used these guidance documents to effectively create new regulations without congressional approval, particularly regarding transgender policies and disciplinary practices. The indoctrination movement has created a hostile environment for academic freedom at all levels. 1. It started with teacher suppression. Teachers who resist ideological conformity face significant consequences. Speech restrictions. Many districts now have policies limiting what teachers can say about controversial topics, even in response to student questions. Ideological litmus tests. Job applicants are increasingly screened for their commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion principles. Retaliation against dissenters. Teachers who express concerns about curriculum or policies often face negative evaluations, reassignment, or termination. 2. Student censorship also was a result of students who challenge progressive orthodoxy experience. Campus speech codes. High schools increasingly adopt speech codes originally developed for universities that restrict harmful or offensive expression. Social media monitoring. Some districts monitor students' social media for problematic views that conflict with school values. Academic penalties. Students who express dissenting views in assignments or class discussions may receive lower grades despite demonstrating mastery of the material. The push for ideological conformity has corrupted the very foundations of educational research. Funding bias. Research grants are increasingly awarded to studies that confirm progressive assumptions about education and society. Publication gatekeeping. Academic journals in education often reject studies that challenge progressive orthodoxy, creating a false appearance of consensus. Data manipulation. Research methodologies are sometimes designed to produce predetermined outcomes that support ideological initiatives. Another, administrative purges. University education departments, which train future teachers, have been systematically purged of dissenting voices. Hiring practices. Faculty hiring in education departments increasingly prioritizes commitment to social justice perspectives over scholarly credentials. Tenure denials. Professors who question progressive dogma often face denied tenure or non-renewal contracts. Curriculum control. Teacher preparation programs now heavily emphasize identity politics and activist pedagogy over traditional instructional methods. Thanks for watching. This was the third of a several-part video on the indoctrination in our school system. To watch more videos like this one, you can go to our website at nehemiahreset.org, to our rumble.com or youtube.com channels. We publish new videos weekly. You can also sign up to receive our weekly new video list by going to nehemiahreset.org/email and sign up for our weekly newsletter. To help our channel, please like and subscribe so that more people can see these important videos. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Are you looking for a limitless supply of insightful reads to expand your mind and transform your life? Look no further than Nehemiah Reset's ebook library, where knowledge meets inspiration at nehemiahreset.org ebook. Go there today to discover a wealth of valuable resources to help you on your personal and professional journey to build a biblical worldview. Learn more about the Bible and how culture is impacting your worldview. Again, the ebook library is located at nehemiahreset.org ebook. Hope to see you soon. My name is Daniel. I am one of the spokespersons for Nehemiah Reset. The prior video was sponsored by Nehemiah Reset, a 501c3. Our mission is to assist Christians in developing a biblical worldview as it pertains to relevant cultural and biblical issues. We seek to inform Christ's followers, equip them, and mobilize them in action to vote for their biblical values and actively engage in our We are also committed to help Christians and non-believers to develop a better biblical view. Nehemiah Reset produces videos and ebooks to assist members of the church in developing a biblical worldview when it comes to cultural issues. We produce videos on key topics like public school indoctrination, the woke agenda, sex education, equity and inclusion, climate change, immigration, religious freedom, and much, much more. To learn more about Nehemiah Reset or to watch our latest videos, go to our website at nehemiahreset.org or our rumble.com channel. We produce 2 to 3 videos every week. To get a weekly list of our latest videos, sign up for our weekly newsletter by going to nehemiahreset.org/email and subscribe. You can support our website by liking our videos, subscribing to our channels, or helping us reach more people through tax-exempt donations. Thanks for your help in growing God's kingdom and bringing more people to Christ. Thank you for your support and help. Come back again soon. Have a great day.